What's up everybody, Rob here from the Basement Bike Shop, and in this video we're going to go over how to install cantilever brakes. Now cantilever brakes, or canties, go on the same posts that V-brakes go on. Now if you don't know how to tell the difference between cantilever V-brake posts and U-brake posts, V-brake and canti posts are located below the brake pad, so they line up more with the spokes. Whereas U-brake posts are above the brake pad, so they line up more with the tire. Now let's get started. So cantilever brakes feature a type of straddle cable that usually comes with it. They have a brake pad that's on a shaft, which allows a lot of adjustment in or out and the angle. They were very popular on BMX bikes in the early 90s to mid 90s until V-brakes replaced them. You'll also need a cable, housing, some ferrules. So the first thing we do is we're going to cut our cable housing lengths to match up with the guides on the frame. Now this is just the housing without the inner cable in it. Mark it with our finger. Now if you don't have cable cutters, and I lost mine, you can use a side cutters or wire cutters to cut the housing. You just have to make sure that the metal coil on the inside is not bent over and blocking where the inner cable has to slide through, causing friction or it not to pass through at all. And then we'll cut the rear cable. Now if your bike was made for cantilever brakes, there'll be a center cable stop in the back by the triangle that stops the housing so that the cable can come down right in the middle of the tire. After I cut my cable housings, I like to take a pick and run it just on the inside where I cut. Make sure that it's free and I don't mess up the inner cable the first time I slide it through. After that's done, we'll put our ferrules on and slide our inner cable in. Forgot the ferrules. Make sure that they're the ones that fit into our barrel adjuster. Then with all the slots lined up in our barrel adjuster on our lever, we install the cable. Now I know people that install the brakes first and then the cables, but I just think that it's kind of simple installing the cable, get it done, and then when I install the brakes I can hook them up and adjust everything right away while I'm there. Now that the cable's installed, we're ready to install the brakes. First things first, just a little bit of lubricant on the brake posts. Prevent any binding. Now if you install your brakes and you still have binding, you may need to sand down your post just a little bit. I have a U-brake installation troubleshooting video that shows a little more into that. Some of the same stuff would apply to this too. So when installing the brakes, one of them is going to have the spring end exposed. And we're going to put that in one of the holes. Let's just pick the middle one in the frame. And then if you realize that this arm is not pulling hard enough or pulling too hard to the point where you can't adjust it with the other arm, then you can move it to a different hole to add more spring tension or less. Now the other Canti arm has the spring locked into a plate that I can put a wrench on and micro adjust so that the tension is even on both sides. Then we'll put our bolts in. Now the side with the spring that goes into the frame can be tightened down all the way. And then the other side, I'm just going to try and match tension and tighten it down. And I'll adjust it after I get all the cables hooked up. Next, we're going to need that strange looking straddle cable. Now there's a straw on one side that the cable goes through. And where it starts by the Y, there's a little notch that eventually you're going to pull the cable over that notch and lock it in. But not until we get it adjusted for length. We'll lock the one side in and then pull the cable through the other side. And then when it seems like we have the right amount of space between the two pads, we'll go ahead and tighten it down. And then we'll move the cable into the notch so it's coming directly out of the center. And we'll clip the extra cable, put a little cap on the end to avoid fraying, and then bend the cable in. Next, we're going to adjust the springs. We'll start with the side that we can lock the wrench in. Now if this side is moving more than the other side, then we'll take some tension off of the spring. And if it's moving less, we'll put more tension on. Now, if even putting all the tension on or taking it all off, you still can't get the brakes to pull evenly, then we have to adjust the spring on the other side, which means pulling the arm off and putting the spring knob into a different hole in the frame. And then after you get that done, lock your wrench on the other side and adjust your spring again until you can get to the arms to pull evenly. Lastly, I would adjust the brake pads. And by loosening this nut, I can change how far away they are, the angle that they're at, and then how far up and down so that they're hitting perpendicular to the rim. But these brakes actually came off this bike, so they're already adjusted. And that wraps it up for this video. Thanks for watching. If you like what I'm doing, hit that subscribe button and I'll keep these videos coming. My next video is going to be on installing V-brakes on a BMX bike. We'll do it to this very same bike. If you don't want to miss that, you can turn those alerts on. You'll be notified as soon as it drops. Thanks for watching.